Okay. Today we will have a quick look at online secondary data sources. And what I've done as well is project management is not the most transparent discipline. It's very difficult to find good databases. And I've attached you on the last two slides 20 good databases that I really like. So have a look through. You will see there may be an overlap to other modules too. Yeah, but I know that Alex has as well a lot of those. Okay. Online secondary data sources, we had the primary data sources. This is really the build up on this, yeah? So to follow. What are we going to cover today? I want to discuss a little bit, can we have a little bit more listening skill? Otherwise my camera will be overtoned, especially in the front row. You are louder to the camera than me.
There's a reason, because not so many people here, but when we speak louder, that seems that of people from the class.
Yeah, I like your thinking, but unfortunately this is not a good idea. So what I want to start with is really going by why we actually should look at this. And then I break it down basically in keywords, identifying the right literature, sampling, seeing if you're on the right track, and seeing how we can actually extract that into the literature review. And at the end, a little bit advice to becoming critical, because there are different schools of thought what's critical. In the UK, we have a particular stance on critical writing and research. Yeah? And I want to as well then highlight a few tools for you. This is for later, when you do your dissertations. There are cool tools out there that are very user-friendly. And well, I highlight this. Okay, how are we going to do this? The secondary data. Some of you may not need the secondary data. Yeah? So the joke is here, the engineer, yeah, if there's a problem, why would we ask anybody? This is a great challenge for us. Let's come up with a solution ourselves. Yeah, so here summarized romantically as a genius. But then there's the rest of us. Well, I refer really to me. I like to have a little bit literature, read up about it, yeah, see what other people have done to decide what the best solution may actually be, rather than inventing the wheel myself. Yeah. So not knowing what we don't know, this is an insider joke, but that is often where we end up with secondary literature. Yeah? We don't really know what's out there. So one way of going about this is really to ask yourself the question, who could have potentially dealt with this issue before? This is not the exact same problem like you're dealing with. Yeah, this is probably context specific, but what people have dealt with this issue, maybe in a different topic, but they had the same methodology, yeah? Or they had the same context, but they were looking at it in a different way, in a different time. Maybe there were different codes of conduct at the time. Yeah? Then the recommendation is, of course, to visit similar terrain. Yeah? Look at what they have done semantically, what they have tried to actually implement to get it solved, and how that actually worked out. Yeah? So you have an insight about what may be the effect of you using this particular literature. Yeah? I want to focus here on the semantic search, because quite frankly this is what most of the MSc dissertation students normally focus on. I introduce a few other ones. They are normally more applied toward PhD level. Now this is when you want to write a very sophisticated literature. Doesn't mean that you don't, that it's not eligible for your dissertation. You can do it as well, but it requires a little bit more preparation. Yeah? So the semantic search is often quite straightforward with keywords. Yeah? And here I want to differ a little bit from common assumptions. It's not how we commonly speak about project management, but you have to think what are the right keywords in the literature. Yeah? So what would be the semantic to summarize the particular theme? And here it comes really down to dictionary versus discipline definition. Yeah, we had that, I was playing around with this a little bit after the Congress. I don't know if you remember. I came back from the Congress and we were, we were talking about, what was the example? Project?
Execution.
Which one?
Project execution.
Yeah, exactly. That was the example. You are spot on. Yeah, project execution means very different things. Let's do the test. Project, what you remember, you have to be a little bit quiet now. But what do you understand under project execution again? What is project execution?
How you carry out the project.
Carrying out the project. Very good. Another one?
Killing the project.
Yeah, killing the project. Exactly. That was the alternative. So I had a wonderful discussion with an older gentleman from Australia that was basically having a bath himself in pride of like how many projects he had executed. And the young gentleman from Abu Dhabi looked at him in terrifying moments. What? You have executed all of them? And basically understanding under project execution, stopping the project or basically pulling the plug, yeah, the resources. So very different meanings. And here always refer to the dictionary. If you want to be a little bit better, I've broken it down. You look at the keywords that are actually indexed in the subject encyclopedia, if you have something like that. Yeah? Sometimes there are refined definitions, and they lead you as well down certain theories. Yeah? And then, of course, they are touched, well, I say in encyclopedias, often journals have their own definitions of that. Yeah? Stick to the journal and have a look what these concepts actually mean. Yeah? So the meanings can be interchangeable. And of course, note any relevant items in the bibliography. This is really for David Beanie. I'm normally quite happy with the references, but David Beanie says always bibliography is so important. I haven't yet used it though, so I can't really comment on that. I'm normally happy with the reference section. And if you have further reading or areas that are up for exploration, name those as well in the literature review. That is at least my take on this. Yeah. And you will see encyclopedias have often as well the huge advantage that you see actually the terminology and the context. Yeah, when is it actually used? Yeah? Then fourth but not last, additional background information may be found in your lecture notes, textbooks, and reserve readings. I suppose those are the readings that I meant in the list. Yeah? So the reading list that I normally have in the PowerPoint or my colleagues have in the PowerPoint, this is a little bit in the direction that I wanted to hint you towards. Yeah, but you will see that is often a determining aspect, and we lead you to one body of knowledge. Yeah? We don't necessarily want to lead you towards contradictions. Alternative literature searches are chronological. What is chronological?
Following time.
Yeah, following a timeline or how it actually evolved. Yeah, and here we have to go back in history because nowadays evolution is all associated with whom? Who's the big evolution guy?
Darwin.
Yeah, Richard? No.
Charles
Darwin. I don't know where Richard came from. I was thinking about Dawkins. But so he has actually stolen this from traditional, not stolen, he has borrowed the term for biology. Yeah? But in reality, evolution means that we adjust slightly the meaning on the current context. Yeah? So in the past, it was in monasteries that there were people thinking, is this concept still applying to today? What has changed in society? And then they would adapt it and make it meaningful to today's society. Now this was traditionally the evolution, and this is where the chronological comes from as well. Yeah, we follow this path and look how, for example, a body of literature has grown. Project management is fascinating to do this actually. Yeah, you will see that that we had actually a very linear way of simplifying, of coming really to terms with what we do in projects, and then it became institutionalized. Governments got involved. And then it became kind of complicated. We had a lot of suddenly paperwork to do. If you look at this, it's actually fascinating to look at this particular discipline. Yeah? So this is one way. And you follow often a timeline or a build-up. Yeah? Sometimes there are parallel developments that don't necessarily overlap in time, but you reinvent it or you recognize it and integrate it basically, yeah, into the history. Then we have the next one is the author-based or key thinkers to series approach, if you want. For example, at the moment, we have a very exciting experiment in the UK. We have a Danish professor, Ben Freiberg, who is a BT professor of project management at Oxford University at the moment. And he has a scholarship of integrating democratic concepts into project management. Yeah, so if you are interested in this, you will see he's publishing a lot at the moment. Yeah, it's a question, of course, if you would be interested in this. Yeah, you will see that that it's quite worthwhile to follow actually his writings, and he will open up to you other literature. So in other words, if you then go into his literature, he has identified the key readings for you in a way. You should still go a little bit beyond and check if this is actually right or wrong, but it's a good starting point. Yeah? Number 3 is another one often done by PhD students, yeah, because we have like favorite theorems. It's following a series strand. Yeah, so for example, I'm organizational studies based. I do like to study organizations, so I publish a lot in that area. If you read my papers, you will see that I refer a lot to anthropology and sociological concepts. Yeah, and here I had the actor network theorem from Bruno Latour. He has as well developed in project management a very interesting base, and he has reviewed, for example, the whole project life cycle and process, life cycle and the different tools that we have, and how they impact on the project management, yeah, or he calls it actually the management of projects. He claims actually that you cannot be project managing. It has to be anyway. So it gets kind of technical and gritty, but then it's a very strong theory as well to forecast. Yeah, so there are limitations basically. So he's after causality in a way. Then I think this is more interesting, but I don't see this very often. For a lot of practitioners, if you go into industry, you may actually come up with practical research observations that fascinate yourself. Yeah, so forget about the literature review with a chronological or thematic idea, but you go the other way around. You have your research observations, yeah, what you actually see in your project, and then you identify the key themes or the key processes that you're interested in, and you ground it in theory. Yeah? So this is actually what it's called, grounded theory. Yeah? And this is another way of structuring as well your literature review. You have kind of the template, you know, that, or your research observations that gave you a structure, how you made sense. And then you go with the individual topics, you have to search a little bit for key terms, in the theory, and basically ground it in the theory. And you say like, this is what I can find in theory about it. Yeah, then another one along those lines is a systematic review. It's a very similar idea. You basically have practical observations, and you then systematically review it to a level where it actually doesn't make sense to the practitioner anymore. Yeah? So this is actually a literature review with feedback with the practitioner. Yeah? So when you, for example, talk about very smart tools from a particular company, you may find that nobody knows what that is except in that company. Yeah? This is then where you would draw the borderline. So those are probably, next to the thematic review, the 6 most common that I have come across, and very applicable, or at least recommended by, we have an advanced management is it studies, or, well, we have an institute that recommends us this, and those guys recommend this for postgraduate studies. Now this is where it ends. You can, etc., etc. That is then discipline specific. Yeah. So, for example, if you are interested in behavior, it may be to do with psychology, then you may actually want to go slightly different about it. Psychology, they're quite proud of how they actually do things, that they have alternative ways. But I have attached you the link at the end. So when you come to this, maybe speak to me or have a look at the links. There are actually guidelines towards this. Okay, this was rushed through. Now let's have a little bit a look about the practical implications. How do we find good literature? Yeah, and how do we actually identify what's meaningful to us? Yeah, so high quality important articles, of course, or good journals, this is what we are after. This is the official answer that I'm supposed to give you. Yeah? Look at high impact factors, importance of journal to its field, and writing of journals. How do we find this? Does anybody know this? This is kind of difficult. How would we find out something like that? Yeah.
How many times it's been cited?
Yeah. So normally citation index on Google Scholar, for example, is a good starting point. But we still don't know how important the journal is to the field. Now that there are rankings, you can look on Google Citation, there's a ranking by discipline. But I don't know many MSc students that normally do this. This is probably something that is more imposed by staff. We like to have highly rated journals there, because if we write then a paper from it, and we basically highlight those highly rated ones, then on Google Scholar we are on top. Yeah? You can see that hammer Alex Hope or Robert Müller into it, there may be a strategy hidden behind it for young researchers. Yeah? So this is not really that important, but you will find current stuff. So this is actually the idea behind it. And highly cited papers, this was really what you pointed towards. Number of citations of an article normally shows how relevant it is. Yeah?
Then it begs the question and the flaw in this, if it's a new paper, you want to have the science.
Yeah, you're spot on. And there's a, so just to repeat the question, or the comment, yeah, if it's already highly cited, it's likely to be around for some time. Yeah, so it's very likely that old concepts that have been repeatedly used are higher cited, yeah, because people still refer for it. So in a way, this is a rigor. Those are papers or theories that have been dominant over time. They are still applicable. This is good stuff for us. Yeah, but you are quite right. When we come to current literature, the citations might not actually be that high. Yeah, so I don't know, like Alex's current paper that he has published has, I think, 4 citations, and this is pretty good. It was published this year, and already 3 have published in other journals and referred to his paper. Now, this is a good start. I'm a little bit unlucky. My co-authors in journals don't like me, but public and governmental reports, they like my stuff. I don't know why. I write something wrong. I want to be referenced in journals, and then you end up in all these European, it's slightly scary. I always wonder what they make of my paper. Yeah, but there's a truth to it. Another thing that you have to watch out is, well, I personally, I have cited a colleague of mine a lot for bad practice. He's in a lot of my papers. You shouldn't do this. He hasn't done the research proper. Yeah, so be careful. We were kind of like tough with each other. Yeah, so sometimes high citations means that I got it completely wrong, and everybody's referring to them as a bad example. Yeah, so be careful. Yeah, there is a hidden truth to this too. Yeah, but again, as a general starting point, this is okay. Yeah. Okay. Here the refinement, yeah, how find the relevant and academic piece to your research. Yeah? Of course, search engines. Nowadays it has been simplified for us. Traditionally this was, I don't know, has somebody been, what was the library like 20 years ago? Anybody in a library 20 years ago?
Not as many computers.
Okay, not that often. Sorry?
Not as many computers.
Not as many computers. Okay, good observation.
At all.
How did we do our search engine?
By hand.
Hand.
Go through the shelf.
Go to the shelf and take a book and search.
Yeah. This is a tough way, really going through the shelves. Sometimes you had the benefit of a small box related to a little topic, and then there were small cards in it. And you were flipping through and looking for numbers with keywords. This is what we had. And it took forever, and then you had like 20 books or something.
Note for referencing and these softwares that help you with the research and everything that's difficult in that time.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a challenge. And normally you would do it as well by asking your professor or staff, yeah, what literature do you know in this area? You can still do this. This is still a good approach, yeah. But in the past we were really relying on those key people to give us names of books that we could actually find something to read about it, because it wasn't that simple. Yeah, but here nowadays we have search engines. I have highlighted my favorite 4 on the next slide, or the slide after. It's a lot easier, but it's still worthwhile to go in the library. Not everything is listed, yeah? So here the recommendation, very straightforward, is a look at the references list of papers you found. This is literature digging, in the literature. Yeah? You find a good paper, you read that of course thoroughly, carefully, then you make notes, and then you have a look at their references. This is actually a good idea. Yeah, so This is a way of convenient sampling, something known as a grasp or opportunity sampling. It's called snowball sampling. Yeah? This is social science. In science, we have actually a different term for it. But as project management, we sit somewhere between behavioral and social sciences for some reason. Yeah, so this would be the proper term, and it means you take the spin-off. Yeah? You find a good paper, you look who has read that and references. Oh, maybe this is interesting for me, maybe not. Yeah, so you have basically a lead with a paper. Does that make sense? Yeah, you can as well look that term up. There's different methods of actually following it through, but it can be useful, especially if you have a field where there's not much written about it. Yeah? Then, following the defined sampling process, this is you have selected papers with keywords, and those are the articles that you found within those keywords. This is it. Yeah, it's a refined approach within 3 months. This can be good. Right? You have your selection. This is applicable. This isn't applicable. Again, it has different outcomes on your dissertation. Yeah? This is what I referred to already, keeping the data in time order. Yeah, this is a chronological approach, and noting comments and other contextual events that are referred to can lead to other publications as well. Yeah? And as well, recording things that don't actually comply with your concepts. Yeah? This is something very valuable. Yeah? Do the literature digging as well after your findings. This is always important. And my favorite, this was kind of the archival notion, yeah? When you didn't have like the search engine, ask your professors. I've given it here in order, yeah? First ask all the professors, then ask the lecturers, and then the students, yeah? So Dave Greenwood and, this is on tape, I should be careful what I'm saying. Yeah, but, okay, so you can ask us, yeah, or your fellow students. Okay, yeah? So we're on a good way here. Okay. Here are my favorite two. I would really, officially it's written Nora first. Yeah, I got the order, I think, wrong. But I think Scholar Google is one that really connects you, yeah, and it's easier to handle. Nora has often restrictions to what we subscribe to, and it can be slightly limiting. Yeah, pretty cool stuff is actually Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule. It's a Swiss university, but the cool thing is, first of all, they have it in 8 languages. This is pretty cool. Yeah, so you can read it in your own language, most likely. Well, this is not true. No. Some of you may be able to read it in your own language, but they have it all in English. and they have actually broken it down by faculties. Yeah, so this is very cool. You can go into project management, and then it links you to the right subject areas. So I was very impressed with this. Yeah? The link is attached. And then this is guys that I'm working with. This is the Institute for Manufacturing in Cambridge. And they have project management tools. Yeah? It's a free database. You can look at it. There are papers to it and why they have done it. And it's normally tested in industries. Yeah? This is pretty cool stuff. Sometimes you can't see what industry it is. Yeah, then it's blacked out, but you can still see the tools. That's always a condition, because it's government funding, and in a way you have already paid for it. Yeah? So you may see the results as well for free. Yeah? And this is particular with modeling, yeah, and decision support tools. So modeling, for example, of a project life cycle, of a particular contextual project, yeah? Cool examples. Yeah? I'm very impressed with it. And of course, Nora superior tool in its own sense. Yeah? Okay, there's a slight differentiation. This is really, again, playing with semantics. Secondary data has a different meaning in different paradigms or different philosophy of how you're doing your MSc. You may remember terms that David Beeney mentioned, like positivism, interpretivism, or quantitative paradigm. This is what I'm referring to. Yeah? Qualitative secondary data, this is, we want to interpret perception, the world as it comes along. Is it real for us in the current context? Is it surreal? Now this is what we are after. Then you have a lot of different elements where we get actually secondary data from. This can come actually from non-structured interviews. You take a secondary opinion, it's not your opinion, you take an opinion from somebody else and reference it, as a key element. Yeah? So if you interview like a group of project managers, those are valuable insights. You want to list them. You want to explain how you got it. Yeah, this is very thorough data. This is good empirical.
Can you reference them?
Yeah, you would reference them, yeah, interviewing, well, if you want to do it by name, this is left to you, yeah, there are different ways of doing this. One would be, Robert said this, yeah, or you have interviewee 26 PM, yeah, if you want to describe the role, because it's important to the context, then you would reference it accordingly. Yeah, and this may not actually go in the literature review, you can do this, yeah, but you can separate it as well. This is what I found in literature, this is what's perceived in reality. Yeah? by the interview. And note here, qualitative, we are sometimes interested in non-structured interviews. Yeah, it's kind of a lie. We kind of send him an email maybe to prepare on the topic. You recognize them maybe as an expert or as a very good person for insight. And then they just explore what they understand under it. Yeah? And then you may just ask questions to clarify your own understanding. Yeah? So this is a way. And then, of course, structured interviews where you maybe test, for example, this is systematic review. Yeah, it's structured because you test each kind of theme that you have identified against the understanding of the practitioner. If you see blank face, you say like, okay, this is it. Yeah, and we don't go any further. Okay. We have as well here focus groups transcripts. This is in a way all qualitative data, can be primary and secondary, and this is why I said it has to do with the semantic. Observation records, this may actually be done by somebody else. And in a lot of projects we have actually monitoring and control. Yeah, if you can get, for example, access to those data, this is secondary, it's not your own stuff. Yeah? It's not your own research observation. And then other personal research related documents, yeah, maybe as well, so this is as well journals, etc., or data of journals, then often referred to as tertiary data. Yeah, this is slightly, it gets ambiguous, yeah, so don't worry about this too much. But for example, if you use a data set from another journal that was interpreted in that journal, then this is in theory tertiary data. And this is the bottom line where we normally draw it. Okay, this is a qualitative side. We have a quantitative side as well. Here we are often after statistical empiries, yeah, so systematical empirical investigation of quantitative properties, phenomena, and their relationships. Here we often go into other people's data set. Yeah, census, for example, pool, samples, market research, this is often used. Be very careful with market research. Yeah? I've seen, there are big research databases out that are not soundly assembled, or it's very intransparent how they actually came to the data units. Yeah? Then housing, social security, electoral statistics, yeah, that's one. And other related databases, journals and books. If you're interested in this, have a look on Skills Plus. Now we have a guide to UK databases. Skills Plus does statistics, and they have a step-by-step guide. They introduce you to the biggest databases that we actually have in the UK, and they give us well an overview of Europe and the world, yeah, what kind of databases there are. Skills Plus, yeah. I have it as well on the last page, but you have to look first through it, so you may want to take a note on this if you are after statistics. Yeah. Okay. Why should we do a literature review? This is of course a burning question that interested me as well. Well, it's often going back, as you have probably noted, I do like referencing, and I don't mind if it's a little bit older than what maybe was published in the last 20 years. So the anecdote is really to stand on the shoulders of giants, yeah, the great thinkers of the past, if you want. Yeah, this is a possibility, yeah, going back and understanding why they were actually thinking the way they were, and what maybe is still applicable to us. Yeah, so this is a huge benefit, yeah, and put a benefit from hundreds of years of research, yeah, and get of course to know previous series, previous empirical results. And I always think of it as, if you think that way, your writing will become a joy. I think about who's, or the previous friends that have written for me. They were interested in the same subject as we are, and they wrote this for us. Isn't that great? Huh? Well, no. Yeah, it is great, yeah, if you think about it. Yeah, it goes deep. And then, of course, studying firm performance maybe as well something. There's a history to this. Who has studied different companies and why we had changes in certain ways of looking at companies or the firm. Yeah? And that was, of course, as well very insightful. 2 other goals: learn about your topic to cite it in your work. Yeah, this is kind of like good practice. Yeah? And then, of course, find the gap in literature. This is a little bit anecdotal. Normally, students don't like that if they find it too early. There's nothing written about this topic. This is normally what I hear then, or what we hear. This is actually good. If you have identified a gap in literature, this is where you can do the primary research and fill this gap. Yeah? Fill your understanding as well there. Yeah? So this is indirectly maybe even a hidden aim of a master's dissertation. Yeah? And a way of finding that is, of course, what hasn't been asked yet or what hasn't been answered yet. I have a lot of papers. I had a discussion recently with who attended the conference yesterday from our PhD students. Anybody? Yeah. Okay. We had anyway. There was a small conference from our PhD students in the faculty. It was as well on the 3rd floor. So potentially, who had an exam yesterday may have got trapped into that. But there were a lot of papers that had actually asked very smart questions, but they had no answers. Yeah, I mean, they had an answer, but it wasn't answering the question. Yeah, so this happens quite often in academia. Yeah, we don't like to admit, well, it's maybe something, we do like to admit that we didn't really work it out, but we normally present what we found anyway. Yeah, so sometimes the real answer is still waiting to be actually discovered. That is very important to notice. There's a danger with this. There's a maze of literature. Yeah? So, this is very important. Yeah? Contrary to popular belief, the literature review itself is not a catalogue of abstracts. Yeah? I have my American colleagues tell me always, oh, Robert, abstracts, those are our good students. Don't say they shouldn't do this. They say, contrary to popular belief, review is not a catalogue of titles. I didn't know that was an option, yeah? But this is the joke. You should go beyond that. Yeah? You should read the paper or come to terms with what they actually found out and how they found that out. Yeah? So avoid the random walks through the literature, very important. Then summarize relevant schools of thought that you have identified, justify the selection of those, yeah? And then refer to leading examples of the literature. From the relevant schools of thought, or what was relevant to your aims and objectives, to what you are after. Yeah? So sometimes some schools are very great, but if they don't refer to your aims and objectives, it's not really required to actually look into those. You could, of course, name them as a negative example. Yeah? The guys, for example, in Cambridge, they don't look a lot at as interesting. We have a lot of tools of project control and monitoring there, but we don't have a lot of enabling trust methods in the IFM. Yeah, there may be a reason behind that. Yeah, so this may be a negative example why they have focused so much in one direction. And then, of course, cite examples of key articles and cite maybe even quote. Yeah, if somebody makes a definition that is just perfect, quote it and explain why this definition is so applicable to your research. This is absolutely fine. This is very good practice, actually. Okay. Yeah, a small joke to lighten up, because this happens to me quite a lot. Yeah, read most interesting papers thoroughly. All right, I just have to read this one paper. And what happened? I totally passed out. I can't seem to read this paper. Has that happened to anybody? Okay, a few. This shows you're on the right way. Maybe you read another paper first, have a cup of coffee, and then come back to it. We have a few colleagues that write very well that way. I don't know how they do this. It's very impressive. Okay. Well, how can we actually find good data sources? And not just data sources, I think it's as well finding objectives and an aim that really carries us through. Here the important thing to remember is science, and you are part of this, yeah? You do a dissertation, a Master of Science, this is you. Yeah? Science is driven by curiosity. Now this is very important. The second part is really for me. Yeah? This was very important to my supervisors because I was interested in something. I'm interested in this theme, I want to research this, but nobody else was. So my supervisors told me, others are interested in the question too, this is very important. They sent me out to my friends and said like, ask your friends if they are interested in this stuff. I have a lot of interesting friends. They were interested and my supervisor told me, okay, we have to be interested in it too. Yeah, so otherwise it doesn't fly ahead. So here was the notion that they gave me, don't waste the readers or supervisors' time. This is how they felt initially about my proposal, but we got there eventually. And how do I know what's interesting for others? This is a tricky question, I've given it already away. How do you know this?
How do you know what's interesting for others?
Yeah. How do we find this out?
You ask them.
Yeah, exactly. Try to talk a little bit about your topic. If people walk away, this is the wrong topic then. Yeah? You can as well adjust in the conversation. Sorry, my supervisor told me to do this. Come back, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, so this is a smooth way of getting out. So here's actually what we came up with. When literature review is interesting for others, focus but not generic, can explain the world but can't explain the world, but it should try to. Yeah, it should relate to the general issues that are current at the moment. Yeah. Then maybe a new question. Don't repeat research by finding obvious results. This is actually slightly snobberish. Some of the best papers have actually done that, and they found something completely different. Yeah, they have done exactly the same research. 20 years later, complete different results. Wasn't an empiry at all. Yeah, so this is actually very insightful. So don't dismiss that necessarily. So what I tried to say here, those are 8 good ideas, but they don't have to be all true. Yeah, if you apply 1 or 2, this is normally good enough. Yeah, so number 3, impacts many different environments, generalizability. Yeah, this is always cool. High impact on theory or practice. Be aware of the so what reply. Yeah, so what can we actually apply in our company environment? This is the exciting stuff. Yeah, or high impact. Links different contradicting theories. Advancement of science. Yeah, so for example, the knowledge management, what I showed you with risk, that was a dissertation that made it in the higher 80%. Yeah? He reflected risk management against knowledge management. How can they overlap in a project environment? Very cool stuff. Yeah, this was exactly that. Tries to explain causal relationships. This is actually a tricky one. Yeah? Not just descriptive data is what it says. Here you often rely on process insight. That is very difficult to get. Yeah? And tries to solve a paradox. For example, why do we run with so many projects always over time? Yeah? If you have the answer, you should go for lectureship in project management. So competition of relevant knowledge to or revealing knowledge about a certain topic. Yeah? And ends in unintuitive results. This is always a cool stuff. Yeah? When you tell somebody on the party, did you think this? No, it wasn't, it was that. And I found it out. Yeah? This is normally the surprise. Yeah? Again, good research question fulfills one or more of these characteristics. Strong literature study is often required with sources where otherwise you don't arrive at those questions. Okay, here's just a process. This is a little bit guidance. Begin with a very broad theme, then narrow down and focus in. Operationalize. See if it's actually applicable to your environment. You may want to dismiss certain concepts because they're too refined, too narrow. Then observe. When you observe, go back in the theory and look if it's actually, if you understand it in the slide, or if they are talking about something completely different. Then analyze the data, reach conclusion, and then generalize back to the theme. Yeah? Make the link back. Then here again, social research methods net. They talk as well about the refinement of this. If you do this, we start at 80% plus. Yeah, this is a very good dissertation. Okay, sorry, this was a massive jump now. Yeah, so this is where we are. I still have the topic, of course, of the criticalness, and I couldn't stop myself, but I wanted to really explain that a little bit, because our Skills Plus critical writing is a little bit simplified, maybe oversimplistic. Yeah, so I wanted to give you the original reference, really. This is from a critical school. This was a research institute in Frankfurt in Germany. Yeah, and the epistemologic distinction, or what we can say about something, came from Jürgen Habermas, from knowledge and human interests. Being critical in literary studies is a form of knowledge via interpretations. It's not quite right. Okay. From a knowledge via interpretations to understand a meaning of human texts and symbolic expressions. This is what we do. So when we talk about something, then we refer to artifacts or symbolic means, like a PNP, including the interpretation of texts which are themselves implicitly or explicitly in the interpretation of other texts, hermeneutics, history. Yeah? So he says everything is shown with a cultural lens. We interpret it with our past understanding in the current means, but we don't know the cultural context of the people that we're reading from. So we have to be critical of that. Is this applicable to our context? No? You can read the whole book, but this is a summary. If you have that, then just write that into your methodology section, and I will be impressed. Yeah? So the other one, this is a simplified version. I leave that as homework. I don't want to bore you too much. But they have basically refined it a little bit more with scope. Yeah? Okay, here are the promised links. So I don't want you to read them now all. You can see it's always a link, and I write a little bit what it's about. This is not actually the link to the British Psychology Society. It's one to actually project management studies in behavioral science of psychology. Yeah? So enjoy those with care. Have a look through. There's one more page. Yeah? And this is just a quick overview. Yeah? So there's, for example, brainstorming tools, and here again my department with tools. And then Project Management Institute UK, there are links, Association of Project Management. They link you basically to their resource database. Yeah? So what? This is the last important thing. Research as a community activity with your secondary data as well. If you find cool stuff and you are researching in the same topic, share it with your colleagues. Have a discussion if it's useful. Yeah? I can promise you two students, or I've tried it with Alex, we have read exactly the same papers, 4 same papers, and we had exactly the same research question. We wrote a 2-pager about it. There was not one similarity. Yeah, so don't worry about it. Work in collaboration, share your ideas, join an intellectual community, have a working support group that you can meet with and discuss your research, and then create, I had that already, create a support group, and most importantly, enjoy the journey. Yeah? This is very important for me. This is it really. Any questions or answers for me? Okay, I would leave it by that. I will see a few of you, I think, in a few minutes for an exciting exam. And then a few others will maybe relax or have already done so. Yeah. If you have any questions to the databases, just come to me. Yeah? I can explain a little bit the links. And yeah, we can elaborate from there. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, in the Wayne Jones building, 301 and 306. Yes, third floor, not top.
Yeah.
Thank you.